The Jedi Temple in Coruscant remained under constant vigilance while the war advanced through every corner of the galaxy. News arrived in fragmented form, but always alarming. Coordinated attacks by dark side users emerged on strategic worlds, leaving destruction and chaos wherever they passed. The Jedi Council convened in emergency session, with Master Yoda presiding over the meeting while holograms of other masters flickered around the circular chamber. Obi-Wan Kenobi observed the reports with growing concern, perceiving patterns that made no sense within the known separatist strategy. Anakin Skywalker was at his side, restless, sensing through the Force a disturbance that sent chills down his spine. Master Windu crossed his arms, his grave expression revealing that he too perceived the gravity of the situation unfolding before them. "Troubling. This is," said Yoda, his voice echoing through the council chamber with the weight of centuries of wisdom. Master Plo Koon leaned forward in his chair, reporting simultaneous attacks on 5 different systems, all with Force signatures clearly linked to the dark side. Ki-Adi-Mundi added information about ambushes against clone battalions that did not follow usual droid tactics, demonstrating intimate knowledge of Jedi tactics. Obi-Wan commented that there seemed to be coordination between these attacks, as if someone were orchestrating a campaign parallel to the main war. Anakin felt his jaw tighten upon hearing the next report. An attempted kidnapping had been made against Senator Padme Amidala in her private apartment. His heart immediately accelerated, and he exchanged a significant look with Obi-Wan, who nodded discreetly. Master Windu requested details about the incident involving the senator, and Anakin reported that he and Obi-Wan had managed to intervene at the last moment. The attackers were not common assassins nor battle droids, but rather individuals trained in the arts of the dark side, although not as powerful as a full Sith Lord. They fought with red lightsabers and demonstrated techniques that clearly came from Sith teachings, said Obi-Wan, describing the ferocity of the combat. Anakin added that the attackers seemed willing to die rather than be captured, which suggested fanaticism or deep conditioning. Yoda closed his eyes for a long moment, extending his consciousness through the Force, seeking to understand the web of events that was unfolding. "A greater purpose. These attacks have," murmured the ancient master, slowly opening his eyes. Anakin felt something burn in his chest as he processed what had happened with Padme. The idea that she had been a specific target, that someone had ordered her kidnapping, awakened in him a fury that he struggled to control. Obi-Wan perceived his former Padawan's agitation and placed a firm hand on his shoulder, a silent gesture of support and warning. Master Windu observed Anakin attentively, recognizing the signs of anger that briefly shone in his eyes before being suppressed. "Careful you must be, young Skywalker," said Yoda, his penetrating gaze fixed on Anakin. "To anger, the path to the dark side it is." Anakin nodded, although inside he felt that his hatred for the Sith had crystallized into something solid and implacable. He would protect Padme, whatever it cost, and would make any Sith pay for having threatened her. Master Ki-Adi-Mundi suggested that they intensify the protection of important political figures, especially those who vocally opposed the continuation of the war. Plo Koon agreed, adding that they should investigate the origin of these dark side attackers and discover who was training them. Obi-Wan raised the question everyone was thinking. Would it be possible that the Sith were recruiting and training followers on a larger scale than they imagined? Windu responded that the rule of 2 should prevent such a possibility, but acknowledged that perhaps they were facing a threat that challenged this ancient Sith precept. Anakin suggested that they trace the attacks back to their source, using Republic intelligence and their own Force resources. Yoda agreed, determining that specific groups of Jedi should be assigned to investigate these incidents and discover the truth behind this new dark threat. The council session ended with a renewed sense of urgency, but also with an underlying current of apprehension. Anakin left the chamber alongside Obi-Wan, his mind still returning repeatedly to the moment when he discovered the attackers in Padme's apartment. The image of red lightsabers cutting through the air, the sensation of fear that emanated from her through the Force, all of this fed a flame within him that refused to diminish. Obi-Wan commented that they needed to remain vigilant and centered, reminding Anakin of Jedi teachings about detachment and emotional control. Anakin responded with a simple "Yes, Master," but both knew that something had changed in him. The hatred that Anakin felt for the Sith was no longer abstract or philosophical. It was personal and burning. He had silently sworn that he would destroy anyone who threatened those he loved, and the Sith had just become his mortal enemy. 3 days after the incident with the Senator, the Jedi Council received intelligence information that completely changed the perspective of the war. Republic agents infiltrated in the outer regions had detected unusual activity in the Horusset system, specifically on the desert world of Corbin. The place was known to any student of Jedi history as the ancient sepulchral world of the Sith, where Lords of Darkness were buried in tombs filled with dark side artifacts. Master Windu immediately convened an extraordinary council meeting, and all available members attended personally, recognizing the gravity of the situation. Yoda was particularly silent, his expression laden with the weight of ancient knowledge about the dangers that Corbin represented. Anakin felt a chill run down his spine upon hearing the planet's name, as if the very mention of the place brought a shadow over the room. The intelligence reports were fragmented but consistent. Multiple ships had been detected entering and leaving Corbin in recent weeks. Long-range sensors had captured energy signatures consistent with training and construction technology, suggesting that the planet was no longer abandoned. Obi-Wan examined the holographic data that floated in the center of the room, pointing out traffic patterns that suggested a large-scale operation. Ki-Adi-Mundi expressed his concern that the Sith might be using the ancient academies and temples of Corbin to train a new generation of dark-side warriors. Plo Koon added that the strategic location of the planet, distant from the main trade routes, would make it easy to maintain secret operations for an extended time. Windu pounded his fist on the table, declaring that they needed to act quickly before this threat consolidated even further. A Sith order, forming itself is, said Yoda, his voice laden with deep concern. Broken, the rule of two was. Anakin felt his anger renewed upon understanding the implications. The Sith were not only operating in the shadows as they always had, but were building an army of dark side users. Obi-Wan questioned how this could have happened without the Jedi Order detecting it earlier, and Windu responded that the war had distracted them all, exactly as the Sith probably planned. Ki-Adi-Mundi suggested that they send a reconnaissance force to Corbin immediately to assess the true scale of the threat. Plo Koon offered to lead the mission, but Yoda denied with a wave of his small, wrinkled hand. Careful we must be, continued Yoda. Strong with the dark side Corbin is. Prepared for what there we will find we must be. Anakin stepped forward, declaring that he was ready to go and destroy any Sith operation they found. Obi-Wan placed a hand on his shoulder again, a gesture of restraint, but also perceived that Anakin's determination was unwavering. Windu considered the situation carefully, recognizing that they needed their best warriors for this mission, but also needed to keep military forces operational on other fronts. The council debated for almost an hour, weighing risks and resources, until they finally reached a decision. A joint force would be assembled, composed of experienced Jedi Masters and competent knights, including Anakin and Obi-Wan, who had proven their effectiveness in combat against dark side users. Preparations began immediately after the council meeting. Anakin was assigned to lead an elite squadron of Jedi Knights, while Obi-Wan would coordinate the tactical aspects of the operation with clone commanders. Plo Koon would be responsible for orbital defense, ensuring that no Sith ship escaped the system once the operation began. Ki-Adi-Mundi would oversee intelligence teams, analyzing any data they could collect from the planet. Windu established clear rules of engagement. Investigate first, but be prepared to neutralize any dark side threat they encountered. Yoda remained in Coruscant, coordinating the operation from afar, but his presence in the Force would be felt by all Jedi involved, an anchor of light against the darkness they would face. As Anakin prepared his starfighter for the mission, he reflected on what they were about to face. Corbin was not just a dead world. It was a place where the dark side had concentrated for millennia, where the echoes of ancient Sith lords still resonated through the Force. He thought of Padme, of how the Sith had tried to take her, and his hatred for them intensified even more. Obi-Wan approached him in the hangar, commenting that they would need to trust each other more than ever in the mission that lay ahead. Anakin agreed, but inside he knew that his motivation was different from his master's. Obi-Wan fought for the Jedi Order and the Republic, while Anakin fought for something more personal and visceral. He would destroy the Sith not only because it was his duty as a Jedi, but because they had become the target of all his accumulated fury. The fleet departed from Coruscant under the cover of night, heading toward the heart of darkness that awaited on Corbin. The operation on Corbin revealed a reality even more frightening than the Council had predicted. The Jedi found not just a training base, but an entire complex dedicated to the resurrection of ancient Sith glory. Tombs had been desecrated, dark side artifacts were being collected and studied, and dozens of dark side apprentices trained in the ancient academies. The initial confrontation was brutal and chaotic, with the Jedi facing adversaries who fought with desperate fury and forbidden techniques. Anakin led his team through the rocky valleys of Corbin, his blue lightsaber cutting through the darkness while he eliminated enemy after enemy. Obi-Wan coordinated tactical attacks, using the Force to sense where the Sith were most concentrated and directing Jedi forces accordingly. The battle extended for 3 full days, transforming the dead planet into a war field where light and darkness constantly collided. During the clearing of one of the ancient academies, Anakin and his team encountered a familiar and terrifying presence. Darth Maul, the Zabrak who had survived the fall on Naboo years ago through pure hatred and determination, his broken body being sustained by the Force while he built improvised mechanical legs in the lower levels of a scrap world. Eventually rescued by his brother Savage Opress and restored by Mother Talzin, he had rebuilt his power and awaited the perfect opportunity to return and reclaim his place among the Sith. At his side was Count Dooku, the former Jedi who had become the visible leader of the Separatist Confederation and a Sith Lord. The two Sith blocked the passage to the heart of the Academy, where the Jedi sensed an even greater concentration of dark side energy. Anakin felt his blood boil upon recognizing Dooku, remembering their previous duel where he had lost his arm. Obi-Wan positioned himself beside Anakin, his expression determined but controlled, and 2 other Jedi Knights flanked them in combat formation. Maul activated his double-bladed lightsaber with a sinister hum, while Dooku held his elegant curved blade with the confidence of a master swordsman. The confrontation exploded in speed and violence that few duels achieved. Anakin charged against Dooku with renewed aggressiveness, his strikes loaded with all the anger he felt for the Sith and for what they had done. Obi-Wan faced Maul, his defenses impeccable against the spinning attacks of the red double blade. The other Jedi Knights attempted to flank the Sith, but the superior skill of the Dark Lords kept them on the defensive. Dooku commented casually about the futility of Jedi resistance, provoking Anakin with observations about his imperfect training and his uncontrolled emotions. Anakin did not respond, channeling his fury into each movement, each attack faster and stronger than the last. Maul laughed as he fought, clearly delighting in the chaos of battle, his wild acrobatics contrasting with Dooku's refined style. The sound of lightsabers clashing echoed through the ancient academy, accompanied by the combatants' grunts of effort. The battle was fierce, but gradually the tide began to turn in favor of the Jedi. Anakin managed to break through Dooku's guard with a particularly aggressive sequence of attacks, forcing the Count to retreat a few steps. Obi-Wan took advantage of a moment of Maul's imbalance to temporarily disarm one half of his double blade, reducing the threat he represented. The other Jedi Knights pressed forward, coordinating their attacks to prevent the Sith from regaining the advantage. Dooku perceived that the situation was becoming unsustainable and made a subtle signal to Maul, who growled in frustration but obeyed. With a synchronized movement, both Sith used the Force to collapse part of the Academy's ceiling, creating a barrier of rubble between them and the Jedi. When the dust settled, Maul and Dooku had disappeared into secret passages they knew better than the invaders. Anakin shouted in frustration, wanting to pursue, but Obi-Wan restrained him, reminding him that they had a larger mission to complete. The destruction of Corbin's main academy was only the beginning of a galactic campaign that would extend for weeks. While Jedi forces consolidated their control over the sepulchral world, intelligence teams began to decipher Sith documents and records that revealed the location of other cells throughout the galaxy. Master Windu coordinated operations from the temple in Coruscant, assigning specific groups of Jedi to each identified target. Yoda meditated constantly over the conflict, using the Force to guide his warriors through the darkness they faced. Each day, new reports arrived from distant worlds. A Sith cell discovered here, a training base destroyed there, dark side artifacts confiscated elsewhere. The web of Sith conspiracy was being systematically dismantled, but the cost in Jedi lives continued to grow with each confrontation. Anakin was detailed to lead an attack against a Sith installation on Nar Shaddaa, the smuggler moon known for its corruption and illegality. The place was perfect for clandestine operations, and the Sith had taken advantage of this to establish a hidden academy in the depths of the lower levels. Anakin's team included 6 Jedi Knights and a battalion of elite clone troops, all veterans of countless battles. They infiltrated the installation through abandoned maintenance tunnels, moving silently through the darkness until they reached the main complex. What they found was an operation in full function. Dozens of Sith apprentices training in combat arenas, dark side masters teaching forbidden techniques, and arsenals filled with weapons and technology. Anakin did not hesitate, launching his attack with surgical precision, his team moving like a well-oiled machine through the facilities. The Sith resisted fiercely, but were unprepared for the intensity of the Jedi assault. While Anakin cleaned Nar Shaddaa, Obi-Wan led a parallel operation on Dromund Kaas, another ancient Sith world that had been reactivated. The planet was enveloped in perpetual storms, its atmosphere charged with dark side energy that made it difficult for the Jedi to maintain their clear connection with the Force. Obi-Wan and his team faced not only Sith warriors, but also creatures corrupted by the dark side that inhabited the planet's jungles. The ruins of ancient Sith temples had been transformed into modern fortresses, equipped with defenses that tested even the most experienced Jedi. Obi-Wan used his characteristic patience and tactics to overcome each obstacle, gradually penetrating the defenses until reaching the core of Sith operations. There, he faced 3 minor Sith lords in simultaneous combat, a test of endurance that lasted almost an hour before he finally prevailed. The installation was destroyed, but Obi-Wan knew that the cost had been too high. Master Plo Koon led the purification of Sith bases on Zayast, a frozen world that had served as the Sith capital in ancient eras. The extreme temperatures and constant presence of the dark side made Zayast one of the most hostile environments the Jedi had faced. Plo Koon, with his species naturally adapted to extreme conditions, was the ideal choice to lead the mission. His team discovered laboratories where experiments with the dark side were being conducted, creating abominations that defied comprehension. Plo Koon ordered the complete destruction of all installations, leaving nothing that could be recovered or reused by the Sith. In one of the deepest chambers, he found records that detailed the full extent of the Sith conspiracy, confirming what the Council had suspected. There was a Supreme Master coordinating everything, someone whose identity remained hidden even from these records. He transmitted this information back to Coruscant with urgency, knowing that the true threat had not yet been confronted. Ki-Adi-Mundi coordinated operations on Republic worlds where Sith cells had secretly infiltrated. These were perhaps the most dangerous targets, as they operated under the guise of common citizens, slowly recruiting the discontented and vulnerable to the dark side. On Chandrila, he discovered a cell operating within a respectable university, disguised as a philosophical club. On Corellia, Sith had infiltrated criminal syndicates, using them as a front for their activities. Each operation required delicacy and precision to avoid collateral damage to innocent civilians. Ki-Adi-Mundi worked in close collaboration with local authorities, educating them about the signs of dark side corruption and establishing protocols to identify and contain future infiltrations. His work was less spectacular than the battles on ancient Sith worlds, but equally vital to ensure that the threat was completely eradicated. Each victory cost the lives of Jedi and clones, but slowly the Sith network was being dismantled. Anakin felt a dark satisfaction with each victory, his hatred for the Sith being temporarily sated with each defeated enemy. However, with each base destroyed, each Sith eliminated, he perceived that something was missing. The Sith they faced were powerful, but none of them seemed to have the authority or knowledge of a true Supreme Sith Lord. Dooku and Maul had escaped on Corbin and had not been seen since, but even they seemed to be pieces in a larger game. During a routine transmission with the Council, Anakin expressed his concerns. observing that the Sith organization was too complex to have been built by Dooku alone. Master Windu agreed, his grave expression revealing that he shared the same suspicions. The Jedi Council recognized that they were winning the war against the emerging Sith Order, but Yoda remained deeply concerned. Too organized, this was, he said in a transmission to the masters in the field, his voice laden with the weight of millennia of wisdom. A leader, behind all of this there must be. Powerful and patient, this Sith is. Windu agreed completely, expressing his growing suspicion that the true Sith Lord, the one orchestrating everything from the shadows, had not yet revealed himself and perhaps never intended to do so until it was too late. The military campaign was being won, but the true war against the architect of this conspiracy had not yet begun. Anakin, listening to the conversation through his comlink while clearing the last pockets of resistance on Nar Shaddaa, felt a cold foreboding run down his spine. He thought of Chancellor Palpatine, of their private conversations, of how the politician always seemed to know too much about the war, of how he always had a convenient solution for every crisis that arose. Obi-Wan perceived the change in Anakin's expression when they reunited after their respective missions and asked if he was well. Anakin hesitated, not wanting to accuse without proof, but also unable to ignore his growing instincts. He casually mentioned that perhaps they should investigate more deeply the close advisors to the Chancellor, people who would have access to sensitive information and authority to move resources without suspicion. Obi-Wan considered the suggestion seriously, recognizing that Anakin had a valid point, but also cautious about making hasty accusations against Republic leaders. They agreed to maintain discreet vigilance while continuing the anti-Sith campaign, knowing that the answer they sought would eventually reveal itself. The hunt continued through the galaxy, each day bringing them closer to the final truth, but also closer to the confrontation that would define the fate of the Republic and the Jedi Order itself. The revelation came unexpectedly, but inevitably, like a storm that everyone felt approaching but no one wanted to face. Anakin had been summoned to Chancellor Palpatine's private quarters in Coruscant, supposedly for a briefing on ongoing anti-Sith operations. As they conversed, Palpatine began to speak about power, about the nature of the Force, about how the Jedi were limited by their dogmas and fears. Anakin listened with growing discomfort as the Chancellor revealed knowledge that no ordinary politician should possess about the dark side of the Force. When Palpatine casually mentioned the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise, describing Sith powers with intimate familiarity, Anakin felt his blood freeze. The truth struck him like lightning. The man in whom the Republic trusted, the mentor who had guided him politically for years, was the very Sith Lord orchestrating everything. The hatred that Anakin felt for the Sith found its definitive target in that moment, and his eyes narrowed as he stared at Palpatine with new understanding. "You are the Sith Lord," said Anakin, his voice low and dangerous, his hand instinctively moving to the lightsaber on his belt. Palpatine did not deny, in fact smiled with a confidence that confirmed everything. The Chancellor began his usual speech about power and destiny, about how Anakin could learn the secrets of the dark side, about how together they could bring order to the galaxy. But Anakin was no longer listening. His mind was filled with images of Padme being attacked, of Jedi being killed, of all the betrayal and manipulation that extended for years. He thought of how he had almost lost Padme because of this man's plans, and his hatred burned with an intensity he had never experienced before. Without saying a word, Anakin activated his blue lightsaber, the blade humming to life with lethal intent. Palpatine, perceiving that his usual seduction would not work, abandoned his facade of frail politician and revealed his true power. Anakin did not hesitate, did not doubt, did not seek guidance. He knew exactly what he needed to do. Dodging Palpatine's first attack of Sith lightning, Anakin retreated out of the quarters and activated his comlink, calling Master Windu directly. "Chancellor Palpatine is the Sith Lord," said Anakin without preamble, his voice firm and certain. "I'm in his quarters now. I need support immediately." Windu, who was at the Jedi Temple, caught the absolute urgency in Anakin's voice and did not question. He quickly gathered the available masters and departed for the Senate building with force speed. Anakin kept Palpatine occupied, blocking lightning attacks with his lightsaber while the Sith Lord completely transformed, his political mask falling to reveal the monster beneath. Palpatine tried to convince him, offering power, threatening those Anakin loved, but nothing worked. Anakin's hatred was now totally directed against him. Master Windu arrived with 3 other Jedi minutes later, but found a scene he did not expect. Anakin was in the middle of a fierce duel with Palpatine, his movements loaded with controlled anger, each strike meant to kill. This was not the Anakin that Windu knew, hesitant and conflicted, but a warrior consumed by singular purpose. Palpatine, perceiving that he now faced multiple Jedi, intensified his attacks, using Sith force with devastating power that shook the building's structure. Windu entered the combat immediately, his Vapad form perfectly suited to channel darkness back against the dark side user. Anakin and Windu fought in deadly synchrony, their lightsabers creating a net of light that slowly cornered the Sith Lord. The other Jedi maintained the perimeter, ensuring that Palpatine could not escape, while deflecting Sith lightning that occasionally escaped the containment of the 2 main combatants. The battle reached its climax when Anakin, using his superior strength and speed, created an opening in Palpatine's defense. Windu took advantage instantly, his lightsaber cutting through the Sith Lord's right hand, which held his own red saber. Palpatine screamed in pain and anger, releasing an explosive force wave that threw the other Jedi away. But Anakin remained firm, planting his feet and resisting the wave through pure determination and hatred. He advanced, and Windu quickly recovered at his side. Together, with Palpatine disarmed and weakened, they crossed their lightsabers in a final coordinated attack. The Sith Lord attempted one last desperate lightning attack, but Anakin and Windu blocked together, and their blades found their target. Palpatine fell, his strength finally exhausted, the empire of manipulation and darkness that he had built crumbling with him. Anakin deactivated his lightsaber, looking at the Sith Lord's body with cold satisfaction, knowing that the architect of so much suffering had finally been eliminated. In the following weeks, the Jedi Order launched a systematic hunt for remaining Sith throughout the galaxy. With Palpatine dead, the Sith organization's leadership collapsed, and many of the apprentices and followers who had been recruited became disoriented or attempted to flee. Dooku was finally cornered on Sereno and faced Anakin for the last time, where the Jedi Knight, still fueled by his hatred for the Sith, definitively defeated him. Darth Maul attempted to establish his own criminal domain, but was located and confronted by Obi-Wan, who finally ended the threat that the Zabrak represented. The Sith bases on Corbin, Dromund Kaas, and other worlds were completely destroyed, their artifacts confiscated and guarded in the Jedi Temple. Master Yoda led purification ceremonies at the sites most contaminated by the dark side, attempting to cleanse the corruption that had taken root. The Civil War ended abruptly without Sith manipulation sustaining it, and the Republic began the long process of healing and reconstruction.